astrological report for the month. So please welcome Cathy.
Okay. Is it on? Yeah. It's good to see everybody. We've been through a whole lot of energies, some of them very volatile, chaotic. I could go on, but I won't. You all know that. And then we're supposed to be at this time, so I just want to let you know that. It's all kind of in the big plan. Right? Okay, so this is March. March energy is... March energy...
Try it.
Okay, so March energy is Pisces energy. And Pisces energy is very psychic, it's very intuitive. It's connecting with guidance, your angels and guides, God, Goddess, whatever your version is of that. Pisces energy is about channeled creativity. It's about peace, it's about unconditional love. It's a lot of meditation, a lot of manifestation. That's all very Piscean, very angelic, very, very, very light. But on the gray side of the Pisces energy is mental institutions, jails, and things like that. So you always want to stay on the high side and don't let it, kind of like self-undoing would be the gray side. There's a gray side and a high side to every astrological sign and every planet. It's all energy. We want to stay on the high side of the Piscean energy right now. And one of the things I'd like to say at this point, you kind of brought this up in your meditation, it's very important right now with everything happening in the world, all the unusual energy that we're not used to. I'll talk about that in a minute. But to send peace and love out to everybody. Remember, this is the United States, united. We're all humanity, we're all one humanity, we're all one race, the human race with souls. We need to concentrate on that right now. We need to send love and peace out to the collective. That's all the souls in the whole world. Because right now the collective is a little bit out of balance. And the fear and the angst and the fighting and all that kind of stuff is out there in the collective out of balance. We need to send that love and peace to bring that into balance and to bring the love and peace higher. And love and peace, etc., is stronger than hate, division, and fear. So I tell people, every time you walk out your front door, send love and peace to the collective. I mean, you don't have to wear all the signs and do everything that we used to do back in the hippies. It's the same energy, it's the same thing we're going through right now. Same planets, okay? But just send it out. We have to help that right now, that good energy. And which you did bring out up in your meditation, which is good. So the Piscean energy makes it easy to do that. Okay? We just kind of can float right into a little meditation and a little manifestation and sending those energies. And is this on?
It's on.
Yeah, it's working.
It's fine.
Try it again. Try it. Come on.
It's working.
Okay. The unconditional love, I lost my place. And the merging, with Source and God and Spirit and having all of that help back us during this time. So it's good energy that we're on right now with kind of the situations that are going on. On March 3rd, just the other day, we had a full moon lunar eclipse. It was a blood moon for those that could see it. I think it was a little cloudy here, and it could could see it this time. Many of us have seen it in the past. It's really beautiful. And new beginnings was part of that. Releasing what no longer is vibrating with us, with our soul, with our community, and releasing that was a big part of that lunar eclipse. And that lunar eclipse also hit the chart of the United States very hard, which you can kind of see in what's going on. And the eclipse before, that was back in February, also hit the moon of the United States, etc., which, you know, kind of shows and everything. On March 10th, Jupiter goes direct. Jupiter's our good luck planet. It's kind of a fun planet. So that would bring in a lot of really good energies at that point. On March 18th, we have a new moon in Pisces. Again, the Pisces energy, which we really need a lot of right now as far as the peace and the love and the meditating. And it's conjunct Neptune. And Neptune rules Pisces. So it's a very powerful, love and peaceful moon, new moon that we're having. And new moons, by the way, automatically, regardless of what sign they're in, are the most psychic, intuitive moons of the whole lunar cycle, because there's no light. And in the old days, when we didn't have electricity, people had to use their intuition if they went out at night, because there was no light, because the new moon is dark. And so it's the most intuitive, psychic moon of the whole lunar cycle. And it's in Pisces. March 20th, it's the equinox, spring equinox. Very powerful, what do I want to say? Not activity, very powerful aspect. It's when the sun enters Aries, but the thing with eclipses and equinoxes and solstices is it's a direct connection to the universe. It opens up a portal, and so you can have downloads, etc., from your guidance, and from through the portal to the universe. It's also the astrological new year, so the chart of the equinox, the spring equinox, is the backdrop for the whole year. It's the backdrop chart of the whole year, the spring equinox. And so that's on the 20th. It happens at 9:46 a.m. for anybody that wants to do ceremonies for the equinox, which a lot of people do. I used to a long time ago. March 20th, Mercury goes direct, right at the spring equinox. Right now, Mercury is retrograde. For those of you that don't know that. So I want to emphasize that a lot of the energy we're feeling feels unstable to us. It's wearing us out. People are wanting to fall asleep, you know, at 6 o'clock at night or whatever. It's because all of the outer planets have moved into fire and air, including, you know, the fire dragon or whatever, the Chinese zodiac. So it's our bodies are having a hard time incorporating this energy of fire and air. For the last, long time, we have had everything that's moved into water or kind of muddy. Okay, now everything is fire and air. We have only one planet left in the nodes that aren't fire and air yet. So Uranus moves into Gemini air in April, and in July the nodes of the moon, the north node moves into Aquarius. Everything, all the outer planets, etc., be in fire and air. Now that hasn't happened for over 300 years. That's why we're having a hard time incorporating this. And that was before the United States was formed. And so if you find yourself getting jittery, tired, whatever, it's that energy. We're not used to that action energy all the time. And we're talking about planets like Neptune that's in a sign for 14 years, Uranus is signed for 7 years, etc. Pluto's in air now, and Aquarius will be for about 17 more years. And all of them moving into fire and air at one time. That's what hasn't happened for like over 300 years. So rest, meditate. If you feel like you need to rest, do it. I know that's hard. It's hard for me. I keep avoiding my recliner because I know if I sit in it, I'm going to go out because of how I feel. Where are we at with all of this, all these changes we're going through? I can see a light at the end of the tunnel, but we're in the tunnel. Okay, we still have 2026 to go through, 2027 for a lot of the major changes and aspects that are happening worldwide. And like I said, the United States chart, when we look at that, is being hit a lot right now, and will be like for the next year. So just be patient, send love and peace out. The universe arranged this for a reason. So we'll work with it. Remember, we're all one race, the human race, the United States of America. People seem to forget that part. And then, just for those that hadn't heard me say this before, when the Declaration of Independence was written, Pluto was in Capricorn. When the Constitution was written, it had moved into Aquarius. The opening line, we the people, for the United States. So that's just kind of a little update on the energy. I keep being asked, when's it going to stop? Well, we got a little ways to go, but we can help guide it. Peace and love, and remember. Okay. Any questions? Okay, this little handout is back on the table if you want one. And by the way, St. Patrick's Day is coming up, all right? And the sun's going to be in Pisces, so the ability for angels and fairies and leprechauns and all the dreams and all that kind of stuff is very prominent. St. Patrick's Day would be very, very possible. And the new moon energy is right around there, and that's in Pisces. So it'll be a fun day. Have fun. Thank you.
I thought of something when she was talking about all of the magical things that are happening. A friend of mine was out in Arizona. She sent me a picture of the moon, and underneath it, a little ways underneath it, was a blue heart. I kid you not. It was amazing. And she saw it with her naked eye as well as with the camera. In the sky. Yeah. You've seen it before? It's real? Okay, all right. Well, I don't think it was Lucky Charms, but yeah. But thank you. Okay, now I'm going to introduce the person you've been waiting to hear tonight. Who here has had a near-death experience? Anyone? Was that a yes? Sort of? I'm kind of a sort of also. Nobody else? Okay, this is going to be a treat if the microphone works. So please welcome Stacie Didier. I don't know if you want to try this or not. It doesn't. I'll give it a shot. It's finicky. Test it. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, good.
Man, I tell you what, synchronicities are everywhere for me right now, and this is how synchronistic my speaking tonight is. Beverly approached me. This is going to be the first time I've ever spoke publicly about my near-death experience and out-of-body experience of meeting what I saw then as the Virgin Mary, and I saw her that way because I was born and raised very, very Catholic when I had this near-death experience, and that's how I would be able to recognize that divine feminine energy at that time. What I've learned in the past 31 years is she encompasses a very high realm of divine feminine energy that is meant to integrate with the divine masculine. And having to go through my dark night of the soul and my own hero's journey to find my way into integration has been hell. It's been a really rough ride, and I've exhausted many friends and family and have been told my life is like watching a burning plane crash at times. And people don't know how to hold space for stuff like that. And when you're the one that's in it, and you're just desperate for the help, love, and support, and people scattered, it gets to be a very lonely world. Especially when you're tethered to an experience like I've had. And I've had 2 near-death experiences because I'm very hard-headed, and the message I came back with, I resisted for over 2 decades and had to land in a mental hospital even, which, by the way, I'm Sun, Moon, Sagittarius with Pisces rising, which also makes sense why I'm standing here today talking to you with the trials that I've had. Am I working, Wayne? Can you hear me? Perfect, okay. I have no idea what I'm gonna say. I've had a hell of a week. I got sick. I've learned through my near-death experience, out-of-body experience, that our body really, truly does keep the score, and our body is an antenna. It is an extrasensory ability that we all have, that when we are born into this human experience, I refer now to as Game of Earth, we get numbed out almost right away, and we purposely forget why we're here, and have come to believe, which belief is a perspective that we take on in a wholehearted fashion. And we're allowed to choose our beliefs at any time, and we can have several beliefs that layer over each other to help filter each other. Such as, forever I was confused about astrology. Do I follow the sidereal Vedic astrology or the tropical Western astrology? And what I've discovered for my own life is they layer each other. I kind of see the Vedic astrology more as a collective map of humanity, of what's going on, because it is the archetypal narrative that is currently happening in the sky. That's truly the alignment. The tropical Western astrology is mathematically defined. Am I saying this right? And so mathematically, it shifts off the Vedic astrology by certain degrees. And it can shift people's natal charts, which can get really confusing. But I consciously started following this perspective about 3 years ago on purpose. I grew up, astrology was always mind candy. And when I made the conscious daily effort to check in, not understanding what Neptune going conjunct Saturn meant at all, the more I exposed myself and the more I understood the archetypes and the archetypal energies, and when I quit thinking about them as actual planets, and Pluto's still a planet in my book, once I started looking at the archetypal narratives of them and seeing how it fell into place with what was happening in my life, I had a lot of, oh my God, this is real. This is like the best map ever, and I have poo-pooed it all my life. It's an interest I've had all my life, but I grew up very fire, brimstone Catholicism. I'm a firstborn military brat, and I was born in '72. I've been called a hippie almost all of my life, and growing up in '72, with my father being military, being a hippie really wasn't embraced. being a firstborn female, wasn't very embraced, especially when the ultrasound said I was gonna be a boy. I think I was like, hey. And then experiences through my childhood that were very traumatic. When I was in my 30s and landed in therapy and got diagnosed ADHD, I fought the diagnosis. I was like, I got good grades, that doesn't make any sense. What I've come to learn about ADHD is I call it trauma brain. And the more trauma that I've collected over the years, which I've held in my body, because our body keeps a score, and I never knew that until the last decade, and I'm 53, so I'm a kind of a slow learner. I found ways in which I could figure out through getting back in touch with my body where my level of empathy ended and others began. I came into the world highly sensitive through not just natal chart archetypes, but through biological issues as well. My poor mom was in labor with me, hard labor for 2 solid days. No cesarean, what's the high blood pressure thing? Preeclampsia. So I'm lucky I didn't die then, but I came out very ugly and with a cone head. When I had my car accident, I was 21. And by the time I hit 21 years old, I hated myself so much. I literally hated myself. I tried really, really hard to be a very good Catholic. I was one of those kids in church, kneeling during the blessing of the communion, striking, pounding my chest. Lord, I am not worthy to receive you, but only say the word and I shall be healed. And I'd cry as a grade school child. My family seeing this took pride in that. What a good girl. Meanwhile, what it was doing to my psyche was, I'm never worthy. I'll never be worthy. My self-esteem was shot. My confidence was shot. And I'm a military brat, so I moved a lot. Every time I got friends, we had to move again, and I had to make friends again. So I developed a very shallow psyche, a very maladaptive psyche. And so by the time I was 21 years old, I thought for sure, if I die today, I'm going to hell. I wasn't married. I was staying at my boyfriend's house in Altoona, and I woke up late for work. It was May 4th, 1994. It was really overcast and cloudy that day. I was supposed to pick up my sister, who was living with me and another gal in Des Moines, for the same Domino's Pizza manager training. Wow, out of the blue. We were both scheduled for a manager and training meeting. And I'm 21. This is a big deal for me to be a manager for, a manager of a restaurant. And I was running late. And I was a cigarette smoker. And I had my first front wheel drive car. And it was a stick shift. First stick shift too. I was really excited. And it was my boyfriend who taught me how to drive it. And on my way from Altoona to Des Moines to catch the East Mixmaster 235 ramp, I lost control of my vehicle. And when I started fishtailing, since I grew up learning how to drive a Ford LTD in North Dakota, man, I could do some serious shitties in that car. It was rear wheel drive. When I fishtailed in my, what was it, a type Honda? I love the car. It had a moonroof, it was really cool, it was stick shift, it was fun, it was front wheel drive. When I started fishtailing, I corrected it as if it was rear wheel, and I just got my car going all over the place. And the entire time, my focus was on framing my apology to my sister and to my manager. I felt so bad about making us both late for work, and I had so much respect for our regional manager who was going to be at this meeting that day, that I didn't do any of the usual things. I didn't buckle my seatbelt. I did not open my moonroof. I did not turn on my radio, and I did not light a cigarette. I took off as fast as I could, and all I could think about is forming my apologies. When I hit that ramp, and I knew I got it rocking like a boat, time slowed way down. It got super slow, like slower than slow motion. And I remember seeing a car in front of me and thinking, from my driving in North Dakota days, do not hit the brakes, you'll lock them up, because your adrenaline's pumping. You're not gonna just tap, you're gonna lock them. So I just kept trying to downshift. That ramp from I-80 to 235 is an uphill upgrade. And back in 1994, it had steep sides. The landscapes, it's the same ramp, but the landscape's very different. Back then it had very steep sides and it had those reflectors going around the curve. The car in front of me, I didn't realize at the time, I learned through my sister later, that she was watching my accident in her rearview mirror the entire time. And she ended up being my first responder. I knew I was gonna wreck my car. And so my thinking shifted. This is gonna be bad. I'm gonna total my car, but I don't wanna hurt anybody else. So if I can get my car steered towards the ditch and ride it down, everything's gonna be fine. And I managed to get it steered towards the ditch. And right as I knew that I met that goal, I saw that reflector. And my car hit it square on and it propelled me up. And I believe on that very first rollover, not wearing a seatbelt, I remember going, pardon my French, but I remember in my head going, oh shit, and letting go of the steering wheel and completely relaxing like this. I'm a bartender by trade, and I knew through my own progressing alcoholism at that time that drunk drivers seem to not get as badly hurt as other people in accidents. So for some reason, I completely relaxed my body because I knew trying to control my car down this hill was going to be impossible. And I just surrendered to the ride. My mom swears that my Aunt Linda pulled me from the car as it was rolling over and placed me on the ground. I always thought that was a sweet sentiment that she had. And she's a hardcore Catholic at that time too, so for her to say that was kind of interesting to me. However, the summer before my car accident, I stayed with my aunt who had a double mastectomy, and I was taking her to radiation and chemotherapy treatments every day, and she ended up passing away. So that's why I thought it was a sweet sentiment at the time. In hindsight, looking back, I think my mom nailed it on the head, because forensics ended up doing a study on my car, and they could not figure out how I exited the vehicle. The vehicle functioned perfectly. I had the moonroof open, but the way the vehicle buckled, they decided that's not how I exited. There was just they couldn't understand it, and they chalked it up to, well, we don't have a case because we can't figure out how you exited. Sorry about your loss, you're gonna have to file bankruptcy. And I didn't want to sue anyway, but I got forced into it because that's the systems that we set up. People, hospitals, businesses that, and I thought when you go to the hospital, it's one bill. No, it's all kinds of bills that at 21 years old, nobody gives a crap about what happened to you, they just want their money. So I go from a really, really high of coming back and going, oh my God, I get a second chance. I didn't go to hell. People, I did not go to hell. I died and I did not go to hell. That's super exciting. And wait a minute, I didn't go to hell? I'm confused. Why didn't I go to hell? And then I realized, oh my God, my religion's really abusive, the way it was taught to me. And I'm really oppressed and abused and neglected from it. And how am I supposed to share that with my family. Like, it tore illusions apart. That's so interesting that that does that. When I exited the vehicle, my next memory from relaxing and saying, oh shit, this is gonna be bad, was I could feel myself with my head lower than my feet. So I knew I was laying on my back on a hill. And again, it was, if you Google the weather on May 4th, 1994, it's like overcast and a little precipitative. And so it made the road a little bit slick because it had been freshly blacktopped, and that's what put me into a fishtail. And all I could feel, this might make me cry, an intense amount of unconditional love that completely embodied not just me, but everything. There truly are not words to describe the level of serenity that we're in on the other side, especially in the warmth of our Mother Mary energies, of that divine feminine energy. It's exactly what these times needs right now, which is very synchronicitous that I'm speaking about this. Like, this is the first time I'm speaking about this publicly, and what perfect timing. We need that unconditional love more than ever right now. And boy, all week long have I been going through the tapes of, who do you think you are? Are you sure you're worthy of this? You're pretty messed up. I am messy. But I also know now, in hindsight, my life has flowed exactly how it was meant to. Because every massive faceplant I've had has helped me build the resilience and perseverance I've needed for these current, historical, fantastical times we're living in right now. I know wholeheartedly now, we do choose to be here. We are truly souls first, having a human experience for a little while, on purpose, for our own reasons, and we're actually doing it for the fun of the game of it. It wouldn't be fun if it wasn't hard. It has to be exhilarating. We love our drama. Look at all our reality TV shows. Hermes is right. As above, so below, as within, so without, so the universe, so the cosmos. Nikola Tesla, I love him too. He says, you wanna know the secrets of the universe? Think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibrations. And he nailed it. So coming back from this extremely life-changing, on the daily, tethering to this unconditional love source that I obviously can still feel. I still feel it all the time. I'm so fortunate to have that gift. Because when my butt gets kicked really, really hard, I didn't want to come back here, but I did for some reason. And it's taken me a long time to remember why. And now I remember why is because somebody's got to share the message. Somebody has to bridge this gap. I'm not a great leader, but I'm a great cheerleader. And I'm very much on board for saying, guys, it's over here. Come this way. I played in your playground. It's rough, and it's fun in the moment, and it's easy in the moment. It may not be the simple, best choice. It might be the easy way out in the moment, but that ends up stacking in your life. And because the body keeps the score, you end up with things like autoimmune disease, and chronic illness, and bankruptcies. I've got 2 now. You've got systems set in place that's meant to keep us sick. I've been on so much prednisone in my life since the time I was 7 and developed severe allergies at 7 years old. I was anaphylactic allergic to corn, wheat, and peanuts. That's everything. Like, I couldn't drink from a paper cup because they're made with cornstarch. Although that went away when I had my car accident. They put me on a dextrose IV. It was my mom who recognized I was in anaphylactic shock, and the doctors were fighting her, telling her, no, it's just head trauma, which I sustained too. Oh, in my accident, by the way, I broke my neck in 2 places. C7T1, I cut part of my spinal cord, which did paralyze me, and I was told I'd be paralyzed the rest of my life. I broke my right wrist. Internal organs were fine, and a bit of a TBI. At least that's what they called it then. A bit of a TBI back then. So, oh gosh, where was I at? Thank you, ADHD. Prednisone, thank you. So prednisone and me have had a long-term relationship. And now with autoimmune disease, our system doesn't care what kind of autoimmune disease you have or where it roots from, or that it doesn't act like something they diagnose like MS, RA, lupus. You know, if it's undiagnosable, their answer's still prednisone. So they don't go any further. What prednisone now does to me is makes me legitimately delirious. Suicidal ideation sets in really heavy. I'm able to recognize it, but I lose the ability to emotionally regulate. And because I have one very profound near-death experience with an out-of-body experience, and I know what going home is, and I can't wait to get back, sometimes it's really hard to stay in this game of Earth. And when I'm on prednisone, and I'm in pain, and I'm just tired, I want to go home. So, because I know I came back for a reason, on purpose, and I know that this game of Earth is only for a little while, and because I'm stubborn and a warrior, I continue to choose to stay here. But by making that simple choice, it comes with a lot of other sacrifices too. I grew up living in the archetypes of the rescuer, the prostitute. When I say prostitute, I mean giving up, refusing to invest in myself, to learn myself and who I am as a person, and wanting to be so loved and accepted by everybody else outside of myself that I morph into what I think you'd make friends with. That's the prostitute archetype, and I did it really well. I'm also a lifelong scapegoat archetype, which I hate, and I still find myself in a lot, but I also think maybe that's a role that I signed up for. Carolyn Mace is one of my most favorite people that I learned from with regards to archetypes. Like, I first learned about him from Joseph Campbell. When I came back from my near-death experience, out-of-body experience, I was so excited. I thought I had to tell the world about what I had experienced, and I called, I think, every talk show I knew of on TV at the time to try and share my story, and nobody cared. Nobody cared. It was really mind-blowing. And what followed that high were super, super duper lows. I didn't have family support. I'm the oldest of 5 kids. I played the parent. I fulfilled a role of the father figure while my sister, who's 2.5 years younger than I am, fulfilled the role of the mother figure. And today she's still a matriarch of the family. Out of my whole family system, she secretly or privately will have my back on things just to try to keep the harmony amongst the family because I'm so crazy. So, Carolyn Mays has a book called Sacred Contracts. In that, she talks about as souls, we make these contracts with other soul mates. And all of us right now in this room, according to my belief system, y'all are my soulmates. Y'all came here, same time I did, play this really crazy game of Earth where everything truly is energy, but because it's a game that we're playing with our soul, and we needed it to be fun and exhilarating, and we do it because we want to grow from it. In order to grow, we have to cause injury to ourselves on purpose. So we come here to get rough and tumbled up, so we can elevate and grow. It reminds me of growing broccoli. Anybody grow broccoli? First time I tried to grow broccoli, I didn't know you had to prune it to get broccoli. So I was really bummed on my first harvest. I'm like, where's all the broccoli? Oh, I had to cut the plant, I had to cause injury to it? Okay, we do that. That's what we need in ourselves too. Oh, I'm getting off track. Let's see here. I think what I'll do at this point, there's a 6-minute video from Carolyn Mays. Oh, that's what I was gonna say, the sacred contracts. I think I made a sacred contract with whoever, I don't know yet, but that I wanted to come back here to learn what unconditional love was. I really think that was my thing. And I say that because when I was in trauma therapy during my dirty 30s, man, my 30s were fun. And then they weren't. In trauma therapy, my therapist asked me, what's the one thing nobody can take away from you? And it literally took me 2 years to figure that out. And I don't remember how it came about, but I remember that was like one of the few times I couldn't wait to see him, to tell him I figured it out. And I remember telling him, I know this is gonna sound really, really cheesy, but I figured out the one thing nobody can ever take away from me, ever, because I'm never gonna let them, is love. And I had no idea how profound that would be at that time. Because all these years later, I am now purposely choosing to live with radical acceptance, with unconditional love in my heart for everybody, including myself, especially myself, because it always starts from within. As within, so without. What if astrology is actually the reflection of our inner universe? What if it's not Mercury retrograde kicking my butt all week? What if it's actually my internal systems reflecting out to the planets and they're our mirror? And the same with every single one of us. Every person I ever meet that I'm attracted to is because I can see myself in them. Every time I butt heads with somebody, I've had to swallow a pill because I eventually realized it's something I don't like in myself. We don't need ego death. We need integration. We need to actively step into our own shadows and really sit with those wounds and listen. We don't listen. We forgot how to listen. We forgot how to listen because we forgot what to remember. And that's a big part of what we're doing.
I'm sorry, I've got to interrupt a second. Somebody just came up from downstairs.
Yeah.
There is a gray Toyota that's blocking 3 cars out in back. A Toyota Corolla, did you say?
Toyota Corolla.
Corolla. If you own a Toyota Corolla, anybody?
Thanks for your patience.
Yeah,
I'm
it
so
works.
sorry.
Oh, no worries. No Toyota Corolla? Gray?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Come back.
How are we doing so far? Alright, cool beans. I wanna really tell you all, thank you very, very, very much for holding space with me today and for coming to listen to this. I truly have no idea what's gonna be coming out of my mouth or what has come out of my mouth. Thankfully, I've recorded it so I can listen later. But this means a big deal to me. Like, a really big deal. I've never really this is the first time I got to share my story publicly. And it's because y'all are choosing to listen instead of me trying to force feed and verbally vomit over my friends. Please just understand me. So thank you for embracing all my weirdness. Okay, getting back on track, kind of, sort of. Where was I at?
Carolyn Mays.
Carolyn Mays, sacred contracts. And I think I came here for unconditional love. So, the segue to Carolyn Mays right now is I really like how she talks about what I call Game of Earth and what that looks like. And I'm gonna pull up a 6-minute video real quick, and we're gonna listen to her voice talk about my drawing there.
Someone one time asked me to sign a drawing so they could take it home. I said, are you crazy? But I did it. I did it for the just to watch someone. I was in shock just to watch them leave.
Can everybody see that?
But then I know they're going to get home and come to their senses and throw it out. Okay. I knew they would eventually come to their senses. And I just want to give you an image to work with that I'm going to refer to, and some of you have seen this before, but it's so ridiculously simple, and that's why it's so effective. And that's that this is you in the shape of a building. This is you in the shape of a building. And a building never moves, so that's the outside, that's you. But you do move up the floors inside your building, and no one can see where you are. But the fascinating thing about living in a building is that depending on what floor you live on, you see a whole different universe. So that if you're on the penthouse, you get this glistening view of a reality that you don't even know exists if you're on the first floor. And you're in the same building with the same address. So everything depends upon your capacity to make changes in yourself and afford the different mortgage. Work harder. Make the changes you need to make to afford to live at a higher altitude in your own house, in your own building. You don't have to change addresses, but you do have to ascend. So it's not about changing physical locations. It's about internal altitude. It's never been about changing physical locations. Ever. So when people think, well, I've got to get out of this place, it has never been about changing physical locations. It's always been about the world behind your eye. The first level is the first floor of anything. The thing about the first level of reality is that when you walk out, when you live on the first level, you look out the window and all you see is the physical world, and you see the house next door. And your thought is, I have to control the space between me and the house next door. And that becomes your whole focus. And that's the size of your world. Controlling your neighbor. Controlling your neighbor is the size of your world. I can't even comprehend a thought that small. I can't hold it. It's not big enough for me. It's so small I can't comprehend it. I don't have containers in my head anymore that are that small. I don't have baguettes. But your whole thing is about, you need Post-it, you need Scotch tape for thoughts that small, I'll catch it. Okay. But it's all about controlling that. It's all about believing that that is what the world is. And you step out and you believe that the world is that which you can touch. It is unimaginable to you. You're living in this building. If someone said to you, did you know that you live near the ocean? What ocean? I can't see an ocean. Because you can't see it. Did you know, by the way, that there are mountains, like in the distance, and you can see them in the morning? You can't see any mountains. For all you know, that is a lie. Someone is lying to you. You have to say, no, you have to have faith. I'm telling you, there are mountains up there. There really are. You live just 2 miles from mountains, and you really do. You do, I'm telling you, you do. But from your point of view, it is a lie. Because on the floor you live, and you can't see any mountains. You just see the window next door, and you see these crowded streets. You can't see any mountains. And from where you live, you can't even see the stars at night because there's so many lights from all the other buildings. You do not live under a sky with a blanket of stars. Not you, because the lights, you live under the blanket of city lights. So no, you don't live under a sky full of stars. People in the penthouse are trying to tell you, yes, you do. You have to have faith. If you come up here, I'm telling you, you do. No, I don't. You do. And I don't believe you. But you do. You don't believe it. You just live in this small little basement, and you think that's reality. You're convinced of it. You're absolutely convinced of it. And getting someone out of the basement is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Getting out of debt is easier.
That cut deep for me because it's so true. Coming back into this game of Earth with the level of fear of abandonment issues that I've had, the low self-esteem, the no confidence, wanting just to understand and know love on an ancient, deep, unconditional level has kicked my butt really, really hard. And I've been in that fork in the road where I totally can understand how people become serial killers. I've faced going that direction versus that direction. And I chose love as a survival coping skill. Thank God for my really great therapists that I had in my dirty 30s to pull me through that. And I fought them on a lot of stuff, but even with my skepticism, I remained curious enough and had a strong enough desire to change my stars and to find who I was. And I'm so grateful for being tethered to that unconditional love that I experienced at 21. So I made poo-poo on Western medicine a lot. They're really great at broken bones. I am so lucky to be walking. I shouldn't be walking. I shouldn't be alive, and I shouldn't be walking. I recovered so well that 10 years after my skydive accident, or my car accident at 21, when I was 31, I took up skydiving as a hobby because I got to seize the day and play this game hard and well. Sadly, I found my party girl and walked off my crazy cliff. And the message that I received from the Virgin Mary to me, through me, to share with the world was slow down. Slow down. but instead I took up skydiving. I have 150 jumps under my belt. I'm excited to say, it's really fun to say, I've been in a hot air balloon twice, but I've never landed in one, because I jumped off them. I've also been on a helicopter, but never landed in one, for the same reason. So those are kind of fun things about me, and I should have never been able to do them. But because of ejecting myself out of a car, and trying to learn how to land a parachute 150 times, my body got really, really beat up, and I literally became arthritis from my neck down in my 30s. Another oddity about me that I hear a lot is I'm 53, I'm never married, I've been engaged 3 times, that doesn't look good for me, and I have no children. I get asked pretty bluntly, well, what's wrong with you?
You're smart.
I get a lot of answers when I ask their opinion, and that's probably one of them. But during my 30s is when the dark night of my soul really began for me, and I had to, I think anybody has to go through that if they're wanting to really integrate their shadow self with their light body, which I feel like most of us are really here to do. I do believe that there's energies here purposely not here to integrate, because everything needs its contrast. In order for us to know our existence, we need that duality. That's that twin flame energy. The term twin flame used to annoy me really bad because we romanticized it on levels of YouTube channels making tons of money and people spending thousands of dollars on twin flame coaches, when really it's just a divinity labeling of energetic forces that are meant to integrate. I really don't think it's anything more than that, but because we're human and we romanticize it, we have to make it dramatic for ourselves, because that's a much more fun game to play while we're here as a human for a little bit. Things that I learned in skydiving that I got to carry forward that has played a significant role in my life is learning to keep my head on a swivel and expanding my circle of awareness. Those concepts I was able to apply into my trauma therapy sessions and into so many other things. I learned through my meeting with Mother Mary that life truly patterns itself. It truly does. It's crazy how much it patterns itself. I grew up thinking that the whole Jacob's ladder concept was this linear ladder that we climbed up. Much like these buildings look like a straight elevator, when in reality, it's more like a DNA helix. And it really does fit with the astrology. So, like Cathy was saying, over 300 years ago, these things were happening, certain things were happening, and now we are circled back. What was happening 300 years ago? Where are we now? That you'll see, that pattern you'll see as a helix. 7 years is another really common planetary alignment. Every 7 years is a form of renewal. And I can see that in my life. I see it in the many boyfriends that I've had. I have a type, as most of us do, but with each relationship I've been in, I've leveled up in my own building. Going back to life patterning itself, I really like how Carolyn Mace describes coming into Earth, and we each have our own address, and nobody sees what's inside, how we're living inside. What I also see as a pattern in this is that our address is our natal chart. We underutilize astrology, and it is such an amazing tool that had I allowed myself as a child to dive in deeper, to learn that I was a sun and moon Sagittarius, and a Pisces rising, and how opposite that is of my parents, I would have been able to form a stronger psyche in myself of being able to stand up and say, no, I'm meant to be very adventurous and spiritual. So while you're railing on me for reading the book of Buddhism, and why not just dive deeper into Catholicism? Like, I'm really okay that I'm doing this, but I didn't have that ability then. Another thing that I learned in skydiving is in order to free fall successfully at 120 miles an hour and back to Earth, typically, you have to be relaxed. Oh, the irony. You just fell out of a plane, belly to earth, and you're hoping to God your parachutes work. You got 2 of them. The second one you didn't pack. It's packed by somebody who is regulated by our FAA. So, man, I hope they know what they're doing. And I have to relax. And the more I was able to learn to relax my nervous system, and I had autoimmune disease at that time, so my nervous system is all out of whack anyway. Learning how to relax in that intense chaos really started setting me up for success in my life, and being able to pump more of that confidence and self-esteem energy into myself. But I'm a really good sabotager. I still hadn't figured out how to slow down, still had to go through that dark night of the soul, had to land in trauma therapy for many years. And then I met the love of my life, who I wanted, the only man I really wanted to marry to the end, like actually get to the altar with. His name was Chris Robinson, and he's 9 years younger, and the day we met, I didn't know his last name, and he asked for my phone number 3 times, and I said, look, buddy, I can tell you're a lot younger than I am, and I'm no Mrs. Robinson. And he laughed really hard, and I had no idea why, and I thought it was dumb. Sadly, because he was 9 years younger than me, even though my first engagement was to a man 10 years older than me, my family had a really hard time with me being partnered with a younger male. And it wreaked havoc in my family. We basically got outed and uninvited to family functions. And he was my everything, and at that point, I was really kind of done with being the family punching bag, so I was gonna have fun with Chris. I kind of fell off my health wagon at the time from a cancer scare that made me go paleo, and I was even able to get the Hashimoto's put into remission, but falling in love with him, woohoo! Let's just enjoy life without consequence, and health issues came roaring back, and the more they came roaring back, the more I went out to the parking garage to hula hoop and smoke my cigarettes, and the more my body became saturated with carbon monoxide poisoning. My second near-death experience was from a low-grade but chronic carbon monoxide poisoning that not only almost killed me, but I lost my one and only house to foreclosure due to an error in coding through that foreclosure and us moving into a smaller apartment. Over a weekend, when we weren't there, the miscoding error created the domino effect of a third-party vendor coming in, collecting all of my belongings and taking them to an undisclosed dump site. So I lost 90% of my belongings. We also lost a baby. That was really hard. I was 41. And I was very careful all my life not to get pregnant because I had plenty of examples of what that's like to have children with somebody you don't want to parent with. So having that loss, even though it was early and it was the right thing for us, in hindsight, it was really, really hard. And Chris, I ended up losing Chris because he became literally my hero. I would not be alive if it wasn't for him. The carbon monoxide poisoning saturated my body so much that I was well beyond 65% saturated. And I only know that because the day that I walked into Mayo Clinic's inpatient program for nicotine, I blew into a carbon monoxide machine so that they could catch me cheating in the program, and I blew 65 parts per million. And I felt fantastic at that point. They didn't know that 2 months prior, I was laying in bed with oxygen levels in the upper 80s, telling Chris, I think tonight's the night I go home in my sleep. Like I can't, it's so hard to breathe. And he'd just hold my hand and he'd cry with me. And he'd say, we'll see. And I'd wake up the next morning and be like, oh shit, I'm still here? All right, let's just keep chipping away at this. I mentioned smoking with the carbon monoxide poisoning. I was down to 1 cigarette a day. I would take literally one drag of cigarette and it would make me so dizzy and nauseous and make me feel like I was gonna poop my pants that I'd have to put it out. And 2 hours later, I'd have to feed that monster again. I was so addicted. I could not believe that through all it took over 10 months for this to be accidentally discovered by your medical system. And then I got gaslighted for it. To the point that I developed medically induced PTSD. So from all the Adderall on the ADHD, the trauma brain of ADHD, the prednisone, the autoimmune disease, the stress of the family, being the scapegoat, the family punching bag, the loss of the baby, the second near-death experience, I was maxed out. My adrenals were burned to the ground, and I cried a lot. Nobody wanted to be around me, and my family even tried to do an intervention on me to have me committed to a mental hospital. It turned into a fist fight at 42 years old with my sister and our baby sister, 7 months pregnant, breaking it up in between us. It was very dark times. Chris helped me pull through all that. And that's when I really started realizing what slowing down started to mean for me. I didn't know how to spread the message elsewhere because I didn't understand the message. Then COVID-19 hit and we got shut down. Still mad at the governor for that. It's March 17th. That is so wrong. Anyway, and I'm restaurant industry. That's why I'm mad. That's my money. COVID hit and we ended up seeing what happened to the planet. Like, it started getting healthy. People that needed to get divorced started getting divorced. People that were meant to be together connected and have really secure attachment relationships, which so many of us, there's like 4 attachment styles. I grew up very anxious avoidant, I would say. Very attracted to dismissive avoidance, because I had daddy issues. But my process, my journey has taught me how to integrate into a more secured attachment style. And COVID helped force that upon a lot of people, which plays into the resonance of the community's energies, which was a really good thing, even though we lost a lot of really wonderful human beings in that too. And that might be part of their sacred contract at that time. Death is something I view very different. Every time someone dies and I go to find my wording on it, I end up resorting to my deep condolences because all the words that I want to say to somebody for their loved one who just passed away is, oh my God, they get to go home? That's so exciting. I'm really excited for, like, man, I'm gonna miss them too. I have a lot of friends actually that have become my guides, that I feel more connected to now than I did when they were here. Honest to God. So my experience has made me so off-putting to the way the perceptions we look through as humanity, that even death, I look like a dickhead sometimes. Suicide is another area of life that I have completely changed my perspective on, that I can look like an asshole about. I don't think if a person commits suicide, they're going directly to hell. Is it a selfish act? Absolutely. Can I blame them for it? Hell no. This game is hard. And we choose to come here. We can choose to come back if we want to. If we need to tap out because it's too much, we all have free agency. And we all need to respect each other's free agency. We all deserve our own journey at our own time, at our own pace. Learning to use my body as my antenna in this fantastic My Bible by Louise Hay. This is, I think, like a first edition. Heal Your Body A to Z, the mental causes for physical illness and the way to overcome them. What that means is when I think I'm doing everything right, my nutrition's on point, I'm getting the sleep, I'm getting the movement in, why am I not kicking this back pain, this asthma, this upper respiratory infection? All these things, I go to that and it nails me every single time. Every single time. So asthma's been a big one this past week for me, which is very fitting for the planetary alignments. What was it? Fear of abandonment issues right here. The probable cause, or the mental thought pattern that may be causing this, is fear of life, not wanting to be here, inability to breathe for oneself and feeling stifled, a suppressed crying. As a child growing up in the Catholic religion, I was a pain in the ass to the priest because one of my biggest arguments was, how can the Virgin Mary be in heaven, a place of nirvana, but be so sad for her children on earth? That makes no sense to me. When I met her, I embodied it all. I completely understand now. I do suppress my tears all the time. I feel the pain of the world. I'm so sensitive in a feeling way, especially in my body, that all these wars, all the tension, people's own personal ailments, if I get around you, I didn't know where I ended and you began. And I've really had to, thanks to good friends and people cheering me on, introducing me to several divinity tools to help me find my way. And now one of the things that I do on a daily basis for myself to help change these probable thought patterns, I closed the book, I was gonna read what the new thought pattern was, but one thing I've done for myself as a practice was I took this book and I practice a lot of shamanic rituals from Quechua, Peru. And in those, I have this altar, and this sits above my altar. And I went through the book and looked up certain ailments, and what I did was I wrote down the new thought pattern I needed to program in my brain to overwrite the tapes that have been running my life and sending me face planting back into the darkness. So now I start my day off with my little bowl of water in my hand, in my yoga pose, helping me to align my chakras and open myself, all my energy chakras, from the root of earth as high up as I will allow myself to reach. And I tell myself every morning, my life is divinely guided. I easily flow with change. I am always going in the right direction. That one messes me up a lot, especially when I mess up. I'm like, how is that going in the right direction? But I am. When I look at my life in hindsight, I'm really flowing with what the universe is needing me to learn and practice. Right now I live with one of the nicest narcissists. I do. And I keep telling myself, I hate this, I'm gonna move. And then I realize, wait, if I move and I get comfy in my own place, I never practice any of my tools because I'm too comfortable. So, because I'm lazy, that's why I smile all the time too, it takes less muscle, and that's why I'm honest. Too much energy to try and keep up with lies. My life really is going in the right direction, always. Because we all deserve our own journey at our own pace, at our own time. I then remind myself that I take charge of my own mind and my own life, and that I am a powerful, dynamic soul, having a human experience here only for a little bit and on purpose. It really is only for a little bit. So it's a very precious gift. Like, think of the souls. Everybody's anxious to get here, and we're the ones that are here. And how silly of us to come here and then go kicking and screaming, I hate it here. Meanwhile, all the souls are like, and my first like, I want to be there right now. Like, come on, I can do that better than you. Like, I'm sure souls don't talk about it, but in my game of earth, it does. I also remind myself that every part of my body functions perfectly, and that I love me. And I really, for as beat up as my body is, it really does function perfectly. Holy crap, I've got a badass body. I cannot even believe the things that it's gone through and has bounced back from. I am on a rocket ship of transformation the last 10 months because the autoimmune issues were so bad. Last Super Bowl, I had just come off an 11-day fast and broke it with bone broth on February 9th, which was Super Bowl. I told myself then, when I reintroduce food, I'm gonna do an elimination diet and see where that lands, because I am struggling to swallow water right now, the inflammation's so bad. By April 1st of last year, I landed on a high-fat carnivore diet. And I thought I knew an awful lot about nutrition, and it totally blew me out of the water. On top of that, I ended up with a really nasty double concussion on the front of my head, April 19th. Thankfully, and again, my life is always going in the right direction, thankfully I had already hit high-fat carnivore on April 1st, so that when the brain injury occurred April 19th, and the brain loves ketosis, and it loves high animal fat, even though I landed in therapy with post-conclusive syndrome, my healing process has been phenomenal. And it wouldn't have been because 3 years ago when Chris told me, oh, you should try the carnivore diet, I said, you're a fool. You're gonna kill yourself on it. Don't do it. And thankfully, he's very persistent and knows I'd eventually figure it out. And he doesn't have to say, I told you so. So my body does function perfectly. I also tell myself that that I choose to be. I choose to be here. I choose to practice loving unconditionally. And that's hard. So I choose to do the hard things. I choose to be compassionate. I choose to be kind. I choose to accept disappointing people. And that's really hard for me because I just want to be liked. I just want to be accepted. One of my biggest fears, and a fear is false evidence appearing real. One of my biggest fears is not experiencing that intimate partnership in this road that I'm in. I don't want to get so high in my building that I isolate myself from humanity. I might have a fantastic view, but man, that view is gonna be lonely if I don't have anybody to share it with. So then it puts me in a totally other fun little game that I share with myself. And that's, how bad do I wanna be? How naughty do I wanna be? Where am I willing to allow myself to let go and be human? That's something I am trying to figure out every day. And that's, I think, part of being here too. It's neat being able to stand apart from myself and watch myself in an objective form. I wish I could eat popcorn and be like, oh damn, she shouldn't have done that. Let's see. I'd like to wrap this up with an oracle reading that I received today. I spent a lot of time this week diving into all my divinity tools to ease my ego and ease all the who do you think you are tapes. And this morning, I tapped into my two favorite archangels, Archangel Michael and Archangel Gabriel. I asked them to tag team a message for me and said, what is your advice for me today? And the card that I drew says here and now. And it was upside down, so nice reminder. Mouse is small and lives in a world that is full of predators and danger. Mouse has many reasons to fear, and yet Mouse is not a worrier. Mouse is not fearless, but it does not fret about a possible dire future that may never eventuate. In fact, Mouse spends no time dwelling on what ifs or maybes. Mouse lives in the here and now. Mouse does not lose hours to speculation, allowing anxiety to manufacture worst-case scenarios. I used to be really good at that. In its mind. Mouse just gets things done. It's time to stop worrying, doubting, and fearing, and start doing instead. Which this is where we can all change everything. This is my inside-out challenge to you. If as within, so without, as above, so below, is really a thing, and everything is energy, we have the power to shift all of this by working from the inside out. It's time to stop worrying, doubting, and fearing, and start doing instead. Live in this moment, savor it, enjoy it, learn from it, focus on the task at hand, and do what needs to be done. That being said, don't be careless enough to put yourself in the path of trouble. Yeah, I'm not going to be a martyr. Mouse would not go up to a cat and bite it on the nose. Mouse gives a cat a wide berth, but Mouse would pause for a moment to enjoy the sun on its fur. It would pause for a moment to play with its friends. Mouse will be spontaneous, and Mouse will search for food and eat when hungry. return to its burrow to sleep when tired, and clean itself when its fur is dirty. This, smallest of creatures, leads a simple life, but also a full one that leaves it feeling content. And I should have slowed down when I said it, but even this comes full circle with the message that Divine Feminine Energy wanted me to share. And that's, we need to slow down. That's what I got for you today. Do you have a question? Where are we at for time? How far over am I?
You're a little over.
Yeah. Do you have time for questions, Beverly?
What's the time? 10 after 8.
10 after 8? Yeah? Anybody have questions?
Did you see anything on your second near-death?
No. On my second near-death experience, that's when I started learning about meditation. Funny thing is, I've always been afraid of water because once my face goes in it, I feel like I'm suffocating. And I even did a past life reading with Diane Ringo. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
And in my past life, her not knowing me at all, she said, well, you have a near-death experience of drowning in the ocean. I was like, what? So when I developed this rapidly progressing asthma, I was literally suffocating from the inside out, I got really deep into breathing techniques, relaxation techniques. I didn't know asthma was actually a muscular issue. And so meditation, lots of praying. Prayer was something I had to relearn how to do. I didn't know how to do that, and I always thought prayer and faith was attached to religion. So when I became actually atheist for a period, I was like, man, I still need to pray. Like, this doesn't feel right. And I had to go through that to figure it out. And so my second near-death experience really brought that into connection with me. And the more and more that I had to fight for my life and the family dynamics of them trying to convince me I'm crazy and I need to be institutionalized, and I knew that wasn't right. I knew all the gaslighting I was getting from Western medicine because they're projecting, even the doctors, like, they want to help, but when they can't, and they pulled from every facet of their knowledge and still don't have answers for you, they project on you because they don't want to look bad themselves. So as a patient, a chronic patient of our medical system, so many of us get gaslighted, and then we gaslight ourselves on top of it. Yes?
Sorry. Mary came to you at which point in this?
In my car accident, I just kind of woke up to being in her presence.
I can talk loud. So you feel like she's been a continual guide in your life.
100%.
Can you talk about some of the any other lifelong lessons?
Sure. That's a really good segue to, I couldn't structure this talk at all, and I wasn't sure what was gonna come out of my mouth because there's so many rabbit holes to go down. So many. With regards to that question.
What was the question?
The question is regarding being embodied by that divine feminine energy in that moment. How does it impact me daily? Like, do I have experiences since then that's directly connected to her? And other lessons.
From her and that divine.
So what I hear in this question is that nurturing aspect of my life. Learning that love is a practice is a big one for me. I've been a hopeless romantic all my life. I grew up, in the early 70s where we're supposed to wait for our knight in shining armor to save us princesses. So my point of views on love were very skewed, and understanding what unconditional love meant was even more skewed. And thinking of it as more of a feeling when it's actually more of a state, I would call it. I think it's one of those words like the F word. It's very versatile on many levels, on all levels. I want to touch on, because I think that this plays into it, artificial intelligence and emotional intelligence. We never talk about emotional intelligence. Divine masculine energy is our action-oriented, protective state of being. Our nurturing, emotional, healing side of us is the divine feminine. There's so much talk about artificial intelligence, and one thing that I was privy to because of my tethering was I knew that every keystroke I was making, since I got to see internet born, played into my potential digital avatar personality. Like, I was the god to that creation in my keystrokes, in my searches, that type of thing. And the more I learned about algorithms, which I don't know a lot of, I could see that developing. So fortunately, I've been very, very, very conscious of my searches and my clicks. That has now paid off for me because when I open up my YouTube channel and I see all these recommendeds coming through, I feel like it's divinely guided by that divine feminine energy, because it's all these amazing breadcrumbs that I'm learning from instead of endless scrolling. Like, I never watch TV hardly ever because I have all these fantastic recommended YouTube videos that I feel is really divinely tethered and is building my emotional intelligence, which we never talk about. And we never talk about our keystrokes building our digital avatars for ourselves and how that's feeding us right back. I think that's very important discussion that we need to have more of. Anybody else there, questions? Yeah.
I'm just curious about when you talk about the feminine energy, and we're seeing this new rise of patriarchy with the MAGA movement. I'm kind of picking up and reading about where J.D. Vance got some of this. How do you see this next? Where is this all going, and where is our place in dealing with all this?
Paraphrasing that question, I hear, with our current times, it looks really still very heavy-handed in the patriarch, the shadows of the divine masculine energy. And how does that look going forward? I think that's a really great question. My shorter answer, my super short answer is, it's always darkest before the dawn. That energy feels the pressure. Think of the yin-yang symbol. You've got that white comma and the black comma. They each have a speck of each other as an eye in it, and they're nice and cozy spooning each other in a whole circle. That's the integration. And life is meant to flow. We're all part of the same ocean, we're just different waves. And we get to wave how we want and clash into who we want. When lots of waves get together against other waves, that energy shifts, so that black and white symbol will shift in how much of that black and white we see, and we need to have that constant ebb and flow. That is energy, that's life. I think that shadow energy is really feeling the heat. And when we look at it astrologically and we tap into our psychics, who are remote viewers, who our governments in Russia have used since the 80s, they all see the same thing, that we're headed into a much more humane, loving world. Many of us may not see it in our lifetime if we're older, but the generations that we're leaving behind will. And what we do now still matters for them, because we can change that course. If we get complacent and lazy and like, well, the astrology says, well, what if that astrology is a reflection of our inner universe and not the other way around? We can't lean on that. We're here to do the hard work. So the more of us who can tap into love as a practice and leading our lives with love and radical acceptance, the more that energy is going to collapse. It just has to, because that's the way energy works. Who else?
I see you have Sophia energy connected with the Christ consciousness. How do you connect those?
Oh my gosh, that's such a fun rabbit hole. That could be a whole nother talk. I think the easier question is, who's not familiar with Sophia energy? Sophia energy. Who's not familiar with it? Okay, a handful.
Like the Sophia codes.
Yes. Yep. And I've heard a couple different versions. The Christian version, I think, is probably the most common in our local area here, which is, oh man, I might get some of this wrong, but the general sense of it is, don't think of Sophia as a person, like a Mother Mary. It's an energy that we put a label on, and we named her Sophia because it's a feminine, nurturing, healing type of energy. She, in her infinite wisdom, wanted to experience creation herself, and desired to fracture herself to create the ability to bring in more knowledge, I believe it was. So in her fracturing of her infinite wisdom, this demiurge was created. And that is how the Catholic Christian God that I was raised under was created. This masculine energy that was born of this infinite wisdom and free will energy of Sophia came in and said, I am the only God. You will not worship any other gods before me. And from there, humans were created with this fracture and making this game of Earth the exhilarating game that it is, that we come into this forgetting, not remembering that we're souls first, that we're fractured and have to go on this treasure hunt looking for that divine feminine wisdom to incorporate that back into ourselves so that we can then return and maybe come back and play the game some more. Jesus Christ comes into play, astrologically even. The age of Pisces is very Christ consciousness. We're moving into Aquarius, which is a very divine feminine energy, which I think that's why I keep seeing Sophia coming up. And Sophia can be found in the Gnostic Gospels. there's like 88 books of, I think, the Catholic Bible, version of the Bible, but like almost 30 of them are hidden away, and in those hidden versions, that's where it talks about the Sophia code, the Sophia energy, the aeons and the monad. Like, who knows about, there's people here that know better about it than I do.
I'm just starting to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, what do you think?
I don't know, I grew up very strictly Christian in my house, so I don't know what I think yet,
It's very fascinating.
very much so.
And it definitely leads straight to the creation of a patriarchal system, which is under attack right now. And that's why we're feeling such intense heat from that side. Bullies don't go down easy, but bullies are cowards in disguise. We're coming up on 8:30. Anybody else have questions? Any other rabbit holes you want to go down? Well, thank you all very, very, very much. I'm so glad that I didn't face plant on my first time speaking. And I want to let you know too that I brought my hula hoops. I have a business that I'm actually going to dissolve and reformat into a nonprofit called Get More Energy. And it's about helping people feel better in their body. And right now I'm working on a very like shamanic level because of my circumstances. I want to help people feel better in their body on a free will donation basis. And my time is really limited in doing that too, but I've got a class coming up that I call Get Me Hula Hooping. And I'm teaching people how to make their own hula hoop. Now remember, I broke my neck and I took up skydiving as a hobby, and I shouldn't be able to do any of this. But I teach how to make this very hoop right here. Size matters. Sorry, man. And then I teach you how to hoop it around your waist. And I call this my sacred circle. And the reason why I call it that is because when you're chronically ill and you're hurt all over, this is like a really nice, gentle fascia massage. And motion is lotion. Ask your physical therapist. You know, when you have hip surgery, they get you up walking that night because motion is lotion. It lubricates your joints. So I can sit there and watch, I don't watch TV, but I did watch Super Bowl halftime doing this the whole time. And it's, anybody can do it. And it also brings about, for many of us women especially, we're very disconnected from our bodies. So when you have a lot of trauma, especially sexual abuse trauma, this helps to open up the root chakra, the sacral chakra. And eventually, you can get your whole body moving and your lymph node system flowing. And a lot of healing occurs on doing something you never thought you could anymore because you can only do it as a kid. And now you can do this with your grandkids and teach them how to make it. So if you're interested, that'll be March 22nd at 2 p.m., at Curate in East Village. It's a free will donation basis. If you want to keep the hula hoop you're making, it will be a $25 fee just to help cover the cost of materials. If you don't want to keep it, I want to save those hula hoops for classes that I'll be teaching with kids and adults, so that we have those hoops for the kids to play with. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight, and hopefully we'll see you next month. Her information is on the blog that I sent out in the email, and it'll be at the bottom, so it'll continue to be on the list. So if you forget to do it and you think of it later, a month down the road, if you want to pull that back up again, you'll see it, or when you get the next email from us, you'll see her information, so you can contact her if you choose. So thank you again, have a beautiful month, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.